Hi, I'm Chef Rob Lukazik, and I'm here to teach you some healthy cooking recipes and tips and techniques. And today what we're going to make is an apple peach crisp, all right? And we're gonna do some, change it up. Now, we know a normal crisp is gonna have a nice, sweet, crunchy topping, which is still this is going to, but we've cut back a lot on the sugars, okay? So if somebody that's maybe diabetic or pre-diabetic, obviously you enjoy your sweets, okay? And we're going to choose some nice apples and peaches, which are lower on the glycemic index. So if you're a diabetic, you have to watch the sugar intake. So these are good options for you. All right, so we're going to use a nice fresh peach and a nice gala apple, but you can use any apple you want. Macintosh are a very sweet apple. They contain a lot of water, so those tend to break down pretty fast, and your crisp can be a little bit watery. So kind of choose an apple that might be somewhere in the middle of the road, and this gala is going to be a nice option here. And I've got the nice fresh peaches. So for my topping, because I'm not going to go straight sugar and like a sugar flour butter mixture, I'm going to do some oatmeal, some almonds, which nuts are very good for you, okay? And we're gonna, instead of using butter, because generally what a normal crisp recipe would take your butter, your flour, your sugar, your spices, and mix it all with butter. I'm not gonna do that. I do need some type of fat. Fat is part of this recipe, and we do need fats in our body and part of our diet. So we're going to use a really good fat. We're going to use walnut oil, okay? So we're going to use that to kind of bind everything together, and then that's going to create our nice crisp topping. And it's by using a fat that is low in saturated fat, and it's got more polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat, which is good for you, okay? You could also use olive oil in this recipe if you wanted to. The olive oil isn't going to come out as like you would think. You're not going to taste that olive flavor, but it gives takes it from being a dry state to a moist state so it doesn't burn on you, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my pie tin here, and I'm going to take my gala apples. These have all been washed. Make sure you wash your vegetables and fruits when you get them home from the market or the supermarket or store, because they are sitting out in the open, and nowadays we have to be very careful, but always wash and dry your fruits and vegetables. So I'm just going to cut right around the core. I'm going to leave the skin on here because there is a lot of vitamins in the skin, okay? So you can, if you want to take the time to peel your apples, go right ahead. And you can throw these in compost, throw them in your garden or whatever, if you choose to. All right, and I'm going to do a combination of 3 apples, classic apple crisp, but we're going to just add some nice fresh peaches into this. And I'm just going to slice them, so I'm just going to cut them probably about 1/4 inch. Okay, and I'm going to put them into a bowl, and I'm going to add some nutmeg and cinnamon, which are nice fall flavors. This is a nice fall dish. Peaches are around locally, and obviously in the Georgia southern region. So we might as well use things when they are abundant, because that's when their flavor is the best and the cost is down. And if we're doing something healthy, we don't have to add a lot of different ingredients to give it flavor. We just gotta use peaches and apples and the ingredients and the vegetables and such, fruits that are at their peak, because that's when their flavor is the best. And then you don't need to add a bunch of different sugars or ice cream, okay? Even though it's probably as good with ice cream, but this recipe won't need it as long as your peaches are fresh and you've got a good tasting apple like this one. Slicing my apple, I'm going to do the same thing with my peach. Okay. And then I'm going to add an 1/8 of a teaspoon. Got a jumper there. So we got an 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg and cinnamon that I'm going to toss on top of here. Just sprinkle that on. Give that a toss. Okay. And I'm going to take my peach. Half, twist it out, and then I'm just going to pull out my bit. This is a freestone peach because the peach did not cling to it. It would be a clingstone if I could not pull that peach off of the pit. So those are the difference between the clingstone and the freestone. That worked out great. So now I'm just going to slice my peaches. The peaches have a lot more water in them, so I'm going to cut these a little bit larger, so that they hold their shape and they don't break down too much. Okay. There. apples are a little more dense. So I'm going to cut my peaches just a little thicker. They're beautiful. How do you know when a peach is ripe? You know, when you see me in the store, I follow all the vegetables because I'm looking for those ones that are as ripe as possible depending on when I'm going to use it. If I knew I was going to make this recipe today, I'd probably go shopping a couple days ago and go get and pick out the best ones that I can feel. And that's all you got to do is just feel them. If they're rock hard, they're not ready yet. If they got just a little bit of give, that means they're nice and ripe and they're ready to go. Nice juicy peaches. Okay. So I toss that all together. Just coat the apples and the peaches with those spices. You could throw some walnuts in here at this point if you wanted to. You could throw almonds in here if you choose not to use the almonds and use the walnuts. Walnuts are so healthy and so good for you. They say you should have a helping of walnuts every day because of all the good things that are in them. Omega-3s, omega-6, which are good for skin. Okay. It's a good fat, so it's, like I said, it's a not saturated, not loaded with saturated fats, okay, which is the stuff we try to stay away from because that is harmful to our heart. Okay, so I've got my apples and my peaches in my tin. I kind of coat a little bit high because as it bakes, it's going to bake down a little bit. So I've got that ready. That was simple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my oatmeal, okay, about a third of a cup to half a cup of oatmeal. I've got my little bit more cinnamon and nutmeg, same ratio, 4. And then I've got some brown sugar, okay? That's about 9 teaspoons, which is about a third of a cup of brown sugar. Brown sugar is, when we talk about the fruits on the glycemic index, brown sugar is not one of those so bad sugars for you. Obviously, it's above. Anytime on the glycemic index, you want to kind of stick around and eat fruits and sugars that are roughly around below 55, that's kind of the marker. Under 55 is good for people that are watching their sugar. Anything higher than 55, you kind of watch. But obviously, sugars are on the higher spectrum of that. But this brown sugar is not too bad. I think it's somewhere around 60-ish or something, 60, 65. Where other sugars can be 70, 75, up into 80s and 90s. And those are the sugars you want to stay away from, especially if you're diabetic. So I've got a little bit of granulated sugar. Okay. It's not even that was like a quarter cup. Then I've got my almonds, which is a quarter cup of almonds. And I'm just going to mix all that together. Now a normal crisp recipe would have double the amount of sugar. And once you taste this, if you go ahead and make this, you're going to go, wow, it really doesn't need all that sugar. Okay? The sugar provides that crunchy or that crisp on the top of this, which is what we want. And so it balances really nicely with the sweetness of the peaches and the apples. Now I'm just going to add my olive oil, or I have walnut oil. But like I said, you can use olive oil if you want. And I'm just going to mix that together. And that's going to moisten this and kind of make it all come together so it's not so dry. Very simple recipe. And then you're going to bake this. You're going to bake this at about 325 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for probably about 45 minutes. You don't want to go too high on the oven because of the fact that, you know, with the oatmeal and the almonds, they might get a little too dark on you. So if you go at a lower temperature, it's just going to take a little bit longer to bake, but it's going to crisp up really nice for you. And then all we do is you just pour this right over the top. You can see this is all nice and moistened, kind of clumps together a little bit. And then we just pour that over the top. You got about 6 servings here. So once you do the calorie breakdown of this, the amount of sugars in this is going to be okay for somebody that maybe is watching their sugar intake as a diabetic or a pre-diabetic. Okay, so all right, you can see how simple that is. Few ingredients, fall flavors, nice. I'm going to bake that for, like I said, about 45 minutes or so, and this is what we end up with. Okay? So it's going to bake down a little bit, and you can see it's got a nice, it gets crunchy and crisp because of the oatmeal. The oatmeal is very good for you. If you're Diabetics, a good thing to eat is a steel cut oat, which is that first rough cut oat. Anytime something's more refined, the worse off it is for you. But the steel cut oats are very good for diabetics. It actually lowers your blood sugar because it gets absorbed slowly into the bloodstream. And that's what that whole glycemic index is about. It's about how slowly does your body absorb those sugars or carbs into the bloodstream. So if it's low, it takes a longer time. If it's high on the glycemic index, it goes into the bloodstream a lot faster, which raises your blood sugar. So if it goes slower, it's better for diabetics. So eating a steel cut oatmeal actually will bring your sugar numbers down, and it is good for you. And it's good for your heart and lowers your cholesterol as well. So the addition of oatmeal here, we didn't use a steel cut oat because steel cut oats, the downside of that is they take about 30 minutes, 35 minutes to cook for a basic oatmeal, as opposed to like an instant oatmeal or a quick cooking oat like this. But this provides a good source of something for you, especially if you're worried about cholesterol, because oatmeal does lower cholesterol. And then we have the walnut oil, which is good for you as well. Okay, instead of using butter, which is high in saturated fat, and we're using something that it's very low in saturated fat, like less than a third of saturated fat than using butter in your crisp recipe. So try it with walnut oil, try it with olive oil, try it with one of those better oils. You're not really gonna, like I said, olive oil, you're not gonna taste like olives, but you're gonna really enjoy this dessert once you try it. Enjoy.